She asked me to get the chairs from the garage. That's how it started. We were hosting dinner for her family, something I never enjoyed but always tolerated. The kind of gathering where everything looks like a lifestyle blog but smells like quiet judgment. Candles burning, rosemary chicken in the oven, soft jazz humming like a mosquito in the background. She was in her element, orchestrating every second like a performance, and I was just another prop in the background, holding a wine bottle and smiling on cue. The chairs were in the garage, behind the shelf with the old Christmas boxes. I wasn't in a hurry, not really. I took my time walking out there. It was quiet, colder than it should have been for April. I opened the door and paused, not because I heard something, but because I didn't. No jazz. No footsteps. Just voices. You seriously married this loser? Dad says divorce him before kids trap you. It was her brother, Jake. Every sentence out of his mouth always had a smirk hanging off it. But it was what came next that made the world tilt. Already planning it. My lawyer says we can take half his business. Her voice, calm, confident, as if she was talking about redecorating a living room. For 5 full seconds, I stood there behind the door, my hand frozen on the handle of the folding chair. It felt like someone had turned off gravity, like I was floating outside of myself, watching this pathetic movie play out where the lead doesn't even know he's the punchline. I brought the chairs in. I didn't speak. I didn't make a scene. I didn't smash plates or flip tables. I looked at Jake and smiled just enough for him to drop his gaze. I handed her mother a cushion. I offered her dad more wine. I played my part with precision because something in me shifted in that garage. Something important snapped into place. The moment the door shut behind them later that night, she turned to me and I swear her whole face dropped like a mask slipping. She was tired. Not in the usual way. Tired of pretending. Tired of waiting. I didn't speak. She didn't either. I went to bed. Slept beside her. Eyes open. 3 days later, I woke up to 47 messages on WhatsApp. I didn't recognize the number at first, but the profile photo was hers. Same dress she wore at our engagement party. A dress she said she'd lost. She hadn't. She wore it in the photo, standing next to some guy with arms around her waist like they belonged there. The messages started calm. Hey, I think we need to talk. Then, please don't make this worse. Then desperation. Answer me. Please. You weren't supposed to know yet. I still hadn't replied when I walked out to the garage again. This time not for chairs. Just to sit. Think. Try to make sense of everything. My eyes landed on the security monitor, the one hooked up to the camera over the front porch. That camera had been giving false alerts lately. I almost uninstalled it. But that morning? It captured everything. Her standing at the front door 2 nights ago. In that same engagement dress. Kissing a man who was not her brother. She looked straight into the camera when they pulled away. Straight. Into it. Not by accident. The strangest thing about watching your wife kiss another man on a screen in your own garage is how quiet everything becomes. The world doesn't explode. Your heart doesn't even race. It just detaches. Like a signal got cut and all you're left with is a loop of static. She looked into the camera after the kiss, dead center, like she knew I'd see it eventually. Like she wanted me to. I didn't move for 10 minutes. Didn't blink. The man in the video was tall, wore some kind of designer jacket, had that irritating posture of someone too comfortable in places they don't belong. He was laughing. She was laughing. I didn't remember the last time she laughed like that around me. I left the monitor running and walked inside. She was in the kitchen wearing that stupid satin robe she bought during our trip to Charleston. Said it made her feel elegant. She was on the phone, whispering. Didn't even hear me come in. Yeah, I think he knows something. He's been acting weird. No, I didn't say anything. Are you insane? Not until the paperwork's ready. I cleared my throat. She turned so fast she dropped the phone. Her eyes flinched. Not surprised I was there, surprised I heard. She opened her mouth, but I held up my hand. Don't say anything, I told her. Not yet. She looked me over like she was recalibrating, trying to decide whether to go for sweet, confused, or angry. She chose offended. Have you been spying on me? That was her lead. Not sorry. Not let me explain. Not even it's not what it looks like. No. She went for spying. I walked past her and poured myself a coffee. Let the silence sit. It itched under her skin. Are you seriously going through my messages now? watching footage like some kind of paranoid freak. Still, I said nothing. Just stirred sugar into the cup. I wasn't trying to be dramatic, I just didn't trust myself to speak yet without flipping the entire kitchen table. Finally, I sat across from her. You were going to steal half my business. She blinked. A flinch in her jaw. The robe started slipping off one shoulder and she adjusted it with more force than needed. That's not okay, that was taken out of context. Your brother called me a loser. Your dad thinks I'm a mistake. And you told them you were planning the divorce before you ever looked me in the eye about it. Silence. Then she stood up. Cold eyes. No tears. No apology. You were never supposed to hear that. Not I'm sorry you did. Not I didn't mean it. Just you weren't supposed to know yet. That hit harder than the kiss. Harder than anything. She looked like she was about to say something else, but the doorbell rang. Loud. Once. Then again. I went to the door. 2 men in suits stood there. One had a clipboard. The other a plain envelope. Are you Mr. Tyler Reynolds? I nodded. You've been served. She stepped into the hallway just in time to see the envelope change hands. Her face dropped. I opened it without a word. Divorce papers. Already filed. Already signed by her. She hadn't even told me yet. But the timing was off. She looked shocked too. Like this wasn't how it was supposed to happen. That's when I realized she hadn't sent them yet. Someone else had. Someone on her side had jumped the gun. And she wasn't happy about it. She wasn't in control anymore. That's when things started getting interesting. She stared at the envelope in my hands like it was ticking. Like it might detonate and ruin her timing, her plan, her carefully choreographed exit strategy. This wasn't supposed to come yet, she said, voice sharp. Not surprised I got served. Just upset it didn't follow the script. I tilted my head. So you were planning to serve me just later? Once you figured out how to clean out my accounts while I was at a dentist appointment. She didn't flinch. Not this time. Just crossed her arms and leaned against the wall like she was posing for a magazine spread on how to look powerful while being morally bankrupt. I didn't want it to get ugly, Tyler, she said, almost bored. I was going to do this cleanly. I had a timeline. A timeline. That's when something in me snapped. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a quiet, final tear in the thread that had been holding me together. I laughed. Not loud, not hysterical. Just enough to make her eyebrows twitch. You had a timeline, I repeated. And I was just what? The dumb husband waiting to be informed once it was convenient for you. Don't act like this is coming out of nowhere, she snapped, stepping toward me now. You've been so checked out for months. You work too much, you never listen, you. Oh, now I don't listen? After 3 years of paying for your yoga studio, your girls' trips, your rebranding obsession where you decided you're an intuitive life coach, with 3 online followers and 0 clients. Her lips curled. That's low. So is kissing another man on our porch and looking into the security camera like you're daring me to catch you. Boom. The silence that followed could have stopped a clock. She blinked. Once. Twice. Realized I'd seen it. Realized there was no wiggle room, no spin to control the narrative. You were never supposed to see that, she muttered. There it is again, I said. That sentence. You keep saying it like it's my fault I found out you're a liar. That I wasn't supposed to notice how fake you've become. That I wasn't supposed to know that while I was busting my ass to keep the lights on, you were shopping for replacement husbands in designer jackets. She opened her mouth. I kept going. You think you're the mastermind here? You think this is a chess game and I'm just a pawn waiting to be sacrificed? And then I stepped closer. News flash. You've been playing checkers with a loaded board. Now she was quiet. She backed up just a bit. Something shifted in her eyes, not fear, not regret. Something worse. Recognition. She realized she underestimated me. That I wasn't going to beg. That I wasn't going to fight to keep her. That I was already gone. I hope he's worth it, I said calmly. Because you just handed me everything I need. Her mask slipped again. And I left her there in the hallway, robe slipping, lips pressed thin, standing in the ruins of the narrative she built. She had a plan. But now? So did I. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of heartbreak. Not even rage. Something colder. Sharper. Purpose. At 2:13 a.m., I unlocked the safe in the office. The one she forgot even existed because she never paid attention to anything that didn't shine. I pulled out the flash drive, the backup drive, and the old ledger notebook. Every contract, every silent partnership, every alias I used when setting up my company's expansion branches. She thought she knew my business. She didn't know the half of it. While she was busy curating her online persona, posting recycled quotes about healing energy and letting go of toxic patterns, I was building firewalls. Legally, financially, personally. Her name wasn't on anything that mattered. She had her Instagram followers. I had offshore backups and 3 different LLCs under holding companies she'd never be able to trace. The next morning, I drove to the lawyer's office before sunrise. Gavin Hayes. Sharp, private, expensive. The kind of lawyer who doesn't advertise because his clients already know who to call. We'd used him once to draft a minor contract years ago, and I kept his number ever since. I walked in without an appointment. He looked up, nodded once. "Rough night." "About to get rougher," I said, and handed him the envelope with the divorce papers she'd filed. He skimmed the contents. She filed under irreconcilable differences. Wants the house, spousal support, and half of your company. I smirked. She thinks I only have one. He looked up, eyebrows raised. "How fast do you want to move?" "By Monday, I want everything out of her reach. I want a counterfile ready, and I want to hit her before she can blink." He leaned back, smiled like a wolf. "I like a man who prepares." As I left the office, my phone buzzed. Not a message from her. A missed call from Jake. That caught my attention. I waited. 3 minutes later, he texted. "We need to talk. It wasn't supposed to go like this. Call me." I didn't respond. Not because I wasn't curious. But I wanted him to stew in it. By the time I pulled into the driveway, she was already waiting outside, arms folded, fake calm painted on her face like a mask that didn't fit anymore. "You went to a lawyer?" she asked. "Didn't you?" Her nostrils flared. "This is getting out of hand, Tyler. You're overreacting. I told you this wasn't supposed to happen like this." "You keep saying that," I said. "You sure you're not just upset your plan went sideways?" She took a step forward. "We don't have to go nuclear." "Too late." And I walked past her, into the house, straight to the room I'd been using as storage, and locked the door. Inside, my backup laptop, a burner phone, and a folder labeled The Fall Plan. I'd made it a year ago. Not because I didn't trust her back then, but because I did. Too much. And something about the way she clung to control made me nervous even then. You don't draft escape plans when things are good. You draft them when something feels off and you're just waiting for the evidence to show up. She thought she'd get half my business. She didn't realize I'd already divided the empire before she even picked her lawyer. And now her brother wanted to talk? Something wasn't adding up, which meant it was time to dig deeper. I waited until midnight. That's when I knew she'd be asleep or pretending to be, whichever version of reality she needed to sell to herself that night. I slipped out of the house with the burner phone in my jacket and drove to the old parking structure downtown. The one no one used since the new one was built closer to the shopping district. Level 4. Middle row. I sat in the dark and called Jake. He picked up on the second ring. "Tyler, man, I know how this looks, but you gotta believe me, I wasn't trying to screw you over." I didn't respond. He filled the silence like a man with too much guilt and no strategy. "She didn't tell you everything. She's been talking to a guy named Carter. He's not just some random fling, all right? He's involved in her lawyer's office. They're not just trying to take half your business, they were planning to leverage your accounts. Liquidate. Fast. And then disappear." "You're lying," I said flatly. I needed to hear it. Needed to see what he'd say next. Jake swallowed, audible over the line. "I thought it was just drama. You two fight all the time." But then she asked me if I could help transfer some funds through my brokerage. "Just a favor," she said. "Small. Anonymous." Then Carter called me. Told me I'd get a cut. Now that got my attention. "You were going to steal from me." I backed out, he said quickly. "I swear, man." I told her I wasn't doing it. That's when she flipped. Told Carter I was a liability. I think they're planning to pin the whole thing on me if it goes wrong. I smiled into the darkness. There it was. The real plan unraveling, thread by thread. Why tell me now? I asked. Because you're not the only one she's betraying, he muttered. She's using everyone. Dad, me, you. Carter doesn't even know she's been recording their calls. She's building an insurance file. Said she'll burn everyone if she has to. Her words, man. I ended the call without another word. By the time I got home, the house was quiet, but not peaceful. The kind of silence that hums like a warning. I walked into the kitchen. The lights were off, but the tablet on the counter was still glowing. One of her folders was open, labeled Manifestation Journal. She always hid things in plain sight. That was her arrogance. I tapped through it. Hidden behind a wall of affirmations and self-help garbage were screenshots, emails, voice memos. She recorded me, arguments, conversations, edited clips with labels like emotional manipulation and verbal pressure. She was crafting a story, not just of betrayal, but of abuse. In her version, she was the victim, the intuitive healer, trapped by a cold, controlling husband who dismissed her dreams and suffocated her growth. She wasn't just divorcing me. She was setting me up to lose everything. And now I was done playing careful. Next move was mine. The next morning, I didn't speak to her. She came down in her faux silk robe, hair tied like she hadn't slept, face calm like she'd slept just fine. She poured her oat milk, tapped through her phone, and acted like we were still in some kind of marriage. Like I hadn't found evidence of her rewriting history with the precision of a pathological author. I left her at the kitchen island, still scrolling, still pretending. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't hitch. I was colder than I'd ever been in my life. I drove straight to Gavin's office and dropped the flash drive on his desk. She's recording private conversations, I said, falsifying context, trying to build an abuse narrative. He didn't ask how I got the files. He didn't blink. He plugged it in, scrubbed through 3 clips, and sat back in his chair with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. She's good, he said, but not good enough. This is incomplete audio. No timestamps. No full recordings. If she uses this, she opens the door to discovery. And we can demand the originals. Exactly. He clicked a few keys, labeled the folder defense material, and uploaded it into the case file. I gave him one more piece before I left, a document I hadn't shown anyone. A signed statement from one of my business partners confirming Alyssa had no legal or operational ties to any of the core assets of the company. It was notarized, dated 8 months ago. She had nothing. And now I had proof. That night I cooked dinner. Steak. Her favorite. She came into the kitchen wearing makeup for the first time in days. She knew something was shifting. She could feel it. I didn't speak much. Let her eat. Let her wonder. She made small talk about meaningless things, neighbors, yoga, her friend's baby shower next month. I nodded, responded where I had to. When she reached for her wine, I finally spoke. Jay called me. The glass paused midair. Just for a second. What did he say? I looked her dead in the eye. He told me about Carter. About the offshore transfers. About the call you made after he refused. She didn't deny it. She just set the glass down and asked, "So what are you going to do?" That question. That tone. Like I still had a choice between rage and submission. I stood. Took the remaining bite of steak. Chewed slowly. Then I said I already did it. She stiffened. I filed a motion to freeze all my assets under emergency fraud protection. My lawyer submitted the documentation this afternoon. We included the voice clips you've been saving. The court will see how you've been constructing a narrative. Strategizing. They'll see it's not about emotional damage. It's about profit. You're bluffing. I laughed. No. You were. And now the cards are on the table. She stood so fast the chair screeched. Eyes wild. You think anyone's going to believe you? I have screenshots. I have messages. You've said things to me. And I have the originals. I cut in. With full timestamps. Stored across 3 cloud drives and a physical copy submitted to a neutral third party. If anything happens to me, those files go public. And you become the story. I'd never seen her speechless before. Not truly. Not like this. She backed away, no more comebacks, no last words. Because suddenly, she realized I wasn't her victim anymore. And the game was over. The next morning, I found her suitcase in the hallway. She didn't even try to hide it. Didn't bother with the fake excuses or the girls' trip. Lies she used to roll out like clockwork. She was leaving, and it was deliberate. Controlled. Just not her idea anymore. She walked down the stairs like it was her house. Like I hadn't just ripped the ground out from under her. I need some space, she said, folding a scarf and stuffing it into the side pocket. This environment is getting toxic. I stood in the doorway watching. No anger. Just stillness. Did Carter find you a hotel with ocean views, or did you go with something more subtle this time? She didn't look at me. I'm not doing this with you. If you want to be childish, fine. I'm not playing that game. You already did, I said. You just lost. She zipped up the suitcase and dragged it to the door. The wheels squeaked. I half expected her to slam the door behind her and peel off in some Uber with her sunglasses on, pretending she was the heroine in some rom-com about self-empowerment. Instead, she hesitated. One hand on the doorknob. What are you going to tell people? She asked without turning around. I smiled. Nothing. I don't need to. She scoffed, half turning. You think your silence makes you noble? You think it protects you? No, I said. It protects you. That cracked her for half a second. I saw it, the panic she tried to hide. Because the only thing she feared more than losing was exposure. Her image was everything. The curated little world of crystal healing, wellness tips, and picture-perfect sunsets she flooded social media with. She was nothing without that illusion. As she opened the door, I added, "Oh, and Carter?" She paused. He's already under audit. My lawyer made sure of it. Turns out his little side hustle has some questionable books. I sent a few files anonymously to the IRS. Just enough to trigger a closer look. Her shoulders tightened. I didn't say goodbye. She left. And the second the door clicked shut, I locked it. But not just the door. Everything. Bank access revoked. Account permissions reset. Every device she had access to scrubbed and disconnected from the networks. She'd built her plan like a house of mirrors. Looked too fast and it all seemed real. But behind the glass, behind the projections and performances, there was nothing but a blueprint of theft dressed up as self-liberation. I got to work. In the storage room, behind the old boxes of winter coats and forgotten electronics, I found the envelope I'd labeled Final Stage. It wasn't just financial protection. It was narrative control. Photos. Logs. Screenshots she didn't know I had, conversations with Carter, comments she'd deleted, a payment she'd made to an unknown recipient under the alias Nova Ren, the name she was planning to use once she reinvented herself. She wasn't starting over. She was starting a con. But not anymore. That night, I uploaded everything to a secure server and wrote one line at the top of the archive, in case she tries to burn the house down, let her. But make sure the world knows who lit the match. She thought she was escaping the story. She had no idea she'd become the prologue. It took less than 2 days for the fallout to start. Jake called again twice. Left a voicemail this time, his voice cracked. Urgent, they're asking questions. Tyler. IRS, Carter's firm, even my boss. I don't know what you did, but it's spiraling. She's not answering anyone. She's gone off the grid. Exactly as I expected. She had a burner. Always did. I saw her buy it once. Late at night in a Walgreens 3 towns over. Said it was for emergency coaching clients who valued discretion. I didn't press back then, but I remembered. She used that phone to coordinate, to vanish. So I let her vanish. But I also made sure she had nowhere to land. One by one, the bridges she built out of lies began to collapse. The wellness sponsor who backed her crystal product line pulled their deal after a concerned third party forwarded them the voice clips of her mocking her own customers. Said they were desperate divorcees with daddy issues. The brand couldn't drop her fast enough. Carter, his audit turned into a full-blown investigation. The emails I submitted were just a taste, enough to show he was laundering through consulting packages and false invoices. I didn't need to dig too deep. The feds would do the rest. By Thursday, her Instagram was gone. Deleted. Not hacked. Erased. That told me she was running scared. But that was only part of the plan. See, I didn't want her just erased, I wanted her seen. For what she really was. So I sent one message. Just one. To a woman named Layla Chambers. The girlfriend of Carter. Ex-girlfriend now, I assumed. I'd found her through one of Alyssa's deleted tags. A soft post, just weeks ago, of the three of them at a rooftop bar. Layla back then had captioned it Power Circle. Manifesting abundance with my favorite souls. I sent her the voice recordings. The texts. The footage. And a simple note, she wasn't manifesting. She was moving in on your life. Thought you'd want to know. Within an hour, Layla posted a video. Shaky hands, no makeup, but her voice clear, sharp, devastated. She told the story. The affair. The manipulation. The way Alyssa pretended to be her friend while seducing Carter under her nose. She showed screenshots. She cried. But she didn't break. That video hit 400,000 views in a day. The comments turned. Suddenly, the same people who used to quote Alyssa's affirmation reels were stitching the truth together. The fake retreats, the doctored testimonials, the stolen designs she'd passed off as her own. Even Jake, the walking LinkedIn quote machine, issued a statement. I disavow everything. I didn't know. I was used. Of course he was. They all were. And now the queen had no kingdom left. But this story wasn't just about her downfall. It was about mine too. Because what do you do when the house is finally quiet? When the war ends and all that's left is your own breath echoing in the ruins? I walked through the living room that night like a stranger. Noticed how big it felt now. Empty in a way that was both terrifying and freeing. The walls no longer listened. The shadows no longer whispered her name. She was gone. Not coming back. And for the first time in months, I felt something again. Not rage. Not sadness. But clarity. The kind that settles in your bones and tells you, you survived her. But you haven't finished yet. The letter arrived the next morning. No return address. Just my name, handwritten in that slanted, meticulous way she used when labeling jars or filling out birthday cards like a perfect suburban wife. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity his teeth. Inside was a single sheet. One paragraph. No greeting, no sign-off. You think this is over. It's not. You may have buried my reputation, but you'll never erase what we were. You needed me more than you'll ever admit. You always will. No signature. No remorse. Just venom dressed as sentiment. I folded the paper once, twice, and dropped it in the fireplace. Didn't even watch it burn. Because something had shifted. Not in her, but in me. I wasn't flinching anymore. The next move was mine, and this time I didn't need revenge. I needed clarity. That afternoon, I called a woman named Elaine Whitmore. She was an old mentor of mine, now the head of a mid-tier consultancy firm. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 2 years. She picked up on the third ring, same crisp tone as always. Tyler Reynolds. Heard your name in some interesting places lately. I smiled. Not surprised. But that's not why I'm calling. I told her everything, clean version. The marriage, the betrayal, the legal maneuvering. I didn't need pity. I needed alignment. Opportunity. She listened without interrupting once. Then she said, we've got a spot in Denver. Project lead. High stress, high payoff. Clean start. I'll send the paperwork. It was exactly what I needed. 3 days later, I signed the transfer. Sold the house. Transferred the last of my personal assets. And packed one suitcase. I didn't leave a note. Didn't update my socials. I wanted nothing from that old life tagging along. No artifacts. No shadows. But before I left, I made one final move. I printed a list of every person she'd burned, friends, clients, silent enemies who messaged me after the storm hit, whispering their own stories. I mailed a copy of her own manifestos to each of them, proof she wasn't who she claimed to be. Not with hate. Not with blame. Just facts. Let them do what they wanted with it. I drove to the edge of the city at sunset. The air was crisp, heavy with the kind of silence that only comes when you've cleared every battlefield behind you. And just as I was about to leave the city limits, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. He's gone. Carter. Vanished. She's looking for him. You didn't hear this from me. I stared at the message. Carter vanished? I didn't care about him. He was a pawn who thought he was a player. But her? She was searching. which meant she wasn't done. She was unraveling. And the final thread? Was still in my hand. I didn't reply to the message. Didn't need to. Carter disappearing was inevitable. He was never built for the storm she conjured, only good at playing rich, not surviving ruin. And she? She was never chasing him. She was chasing a way back into the story. My story. The one I'd finally taken control of. But she had nothing left to hold onto. I reached Denver 2 days later. New apartment. New office. New rhythm. I told no one where I was going. Let the silence spread like wildfire. You'd be surprised how fast people stop asking when they realize they're no longer part of your map. The city was clean in a way I hadn't felt in years. Not just buildings or air. Me. Clean. But closure isn't always an ending. Sometimes it's a sound. Like the knock that came a week after I settled in. I opened the door. She wasn't there. But a box was. No note. No name. Just a black ribbon. Inside? A collection of the same photos I'd once deleted from my phone. Us. Vacations. Parties. Smiling like strangers, pretending to be real. On top of the pile, one Polaroid. Of her. Standing in front of our old house. Across the bottom, written in marker, "You won the war." But we both know who started it. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel anything. I closed the box and placed it on the top shelf of my closet, not out of nostalgia. Not out of fear. But as a monument. To the person I used to be. To the life I survived. Because that's what it was, survival. She was the storm and I walked through her. Alone. Burned but still walking. Yeah? I sleep through the night. No knocks. No calls. Just silence and the hum of freedom in my chest. So if you're reading this and you're standing in your own storm, I'll leave you with this: the lies they tell are loud. But the truth? The truth waits. Patient. Still. Undeniable. And when it rises, when you finally let go of the illusion, you won't need revenge. You'll just need a door. And the strength to walk through it without looking back.